My 10-year-old granddaughter called me at midnight. "Grandma, come quickly, but don't tell my parents." 10 minutes later, I was standing near my son's house, and what I saw through the window made my legs buckle. The phone call shattered the silence of my bedroom at exactly midnight. I woke up instantly. Maternal instinct doesn't fade even at 68, when your children are long grown and your grandchildren are growing up. The screen displayed the name, Sophia, my 10-year-old granddaughter. My heart skipped. Children that age don't call in the middle of the night for no reason. "Sophia?" I whispered, trying not to wake my husband. "What happened, dear?" "Abuela!" My granddaughter's voice trembled, but she was clearly trying to speak quietly. "Abuela, please come. Quickly. But don't tell Mom and Dad that I called." My blood ran cold. In 50 years of motherhood and 10 years of grandmother experience, I had learned to distinguish children's whims from real trouble. In Sophia's voice was that very note that makes adults forget everything and rush to help. "Sophia, sweetheart, what's happening? Are you okay? Did someone hurt you?" I can't say over the phone. "Abuela, just come, please, and don't call Mom. Promise." Okay, I promise. "I'm already coming. Are you at home now?" "Yes, in my room. Abuela." "What, sunshine? I love you very much." The line went dead. I sat with the phone in my hands, feeling chills run down my spine. Something was wrong, very wrong. Rodrigo, my son, lived with his family half an hour's drive from us. Their family was exemplary, at least from the outside. Rodrigo worked as a manager in a large company. Valentina was a child psychologist. Sophia was their only daughter, smart, well-read beyond her years, a girl with huge brown eyes and a mass of dark curly hair. I carefully got out of bed. My husband Esteban slept soundly. He took sleeping pills before bed and wouldn't wake until morning. Dressing as quietly as possible, I took my car keys and purse. Outside rained February night, starry, silent. My old Honda didn't start right away, but after several attempts, the engine finally purred. As I drove through the empty night streets, thoughts darted in my head like birds in a cage. What could have happened that Sophia didn't dare tell her parents but called me? My granddaughter and I had always been close, maybe even too close for Valentina's taste, who sometimes jealously remarked, "Mom, you and Sophia are like conspirators." And we really were conspirators. Sophia told me things she didn't tell her parents, about how sometimes she felt sad that she didn't have a little brother or sister, about how she was afraid she wouldn't meet her parents' expectations. Mom and Dad expected only excellent grades from her, success in music school, sports, English, about how it seemed to her that Mom and Dad loved their work more than her. "Abuela, why are adults always in a hurry?" she asked once. "Dad always says, 'Wait, I'm working.' And Mom, 'We'll talk later, I have a client.' But I just want to sit nearby and tell about what happened at school." I hugged her then and said, "Sweetheart, your parents love you very much." Sometimes adults just forget that the most important thing isn't work, but family. But that doesn't mean they don't need you. Now, racing through the night streets, I thought that perhaps I had underestimated the depth of the problem. Maybe something was cracking at the seams in this exemplary family. Rodrigo and Valentina lived in a 2-story house in a quiet neighborhood. A dream house, with a well-kept garden, white fence, and red tile roof. I parked a little further down the street so the engine noise wouldn't wake the neighbors. It was 12 minutes past midnight. Light was on in only one window in the house, in Sophia's room on the 2nd floor. The other windows were dark, like closed eyes. I took out my phone to text my granddaughter that I had arrived, but she beat me to it. The message came literally at the same second. "Abuela, did you come? I'm in my room. Wait a little." Wait. Okay. But what was happening in the house? Why couldn't Sophia come out to me? And why had she so categorically asked not to tell her parents? I turned off the headlights and engine, remained sitting in the car. The February night quickly cooled the interior, and I wrapped my jacket tighter, In such silence, every sound was audible. Somewhere a dog was barking, a car drove by in the distance, wind rustled the bare tree branches. Minutes dragged like hours. I didn't take my eyes off Sophia's lit window. Sometimes it seemed I saw a silhouette flickering behind the curtains, but I couldn't say for sure. About 10 minutes passed when suddenly the light came on in the living room on the first floor of the house. The large window, which during the day was the house's decoration, now glowed as a yellow rectangle in the darkness. I got out of the car and approached the window. At first, I saw only an empty room. Familiar furniture, the carpet where Sophia and I loved to play board games. Then my son appeared in view. Rodrigo looked strange. His hair was disheveled. He wore only a pajama t-shirt and jeans that he had apparently pulled on hastily. But it wasn't about the clothes. It was about his face and movements. My son, always calm and reasonable, was pacing around the room like a wild animal in a cage. He was looking for something, peering behind the sofa, turning over cushions, opening desk drawers. His movements were sharp, almost feverish. Then Valentina entered the living room. My daughter-in-law looked no better. A robe thrown over her nightgown, hair disheveled, face pale. She was saying something to Rodrigo, waving her arms. From how her lips moved, how her face muscles tensed, it was clear. She was shouting. Rodrigo turned sharply to his wife and also began saying something. No, not saying, shouting. Even through the glass and distance, I could see how he clenched his fists, how his face twitched. And then happened what made my legs buckle. Rodrigo grabbed Valentina by the shoulders and began shaking her. Not gently, not soothingly, roughly, angrily. Valentina tried to break free, but Rodrigo was stronger. Then he pushed her. Valentina fell onto the sofa, and Rodrigo... My God! Rodrigo raised his hand to strike. I don't remember how I ran to the house. I only remember pounding on the door, shouting, "Rodrigo! Open right now!" The light in the living room instantly went out. The house plunged into silence, but I continued knocking. "Rodrigo! I know you're not sleeping. Open the door!" Finally, the lock clicked, and my son appeared before me. He tried to feign surprise. "Mom? What are you doing here at this time? Did something happen?" But his acting skills had always been weak. His gaze darted, his hands trembled, sweat appeared on his face. "Let me in, Rodrigo." "Mom, it's night now. Everyone's sleeping. Maybe you could come tomorrow." "Rodrigo." I looked into his eyes the way only mothers can when they know their child is lying. "Let me into the house, right now." He stepped aside and I entered. The hallway smelled of someone else's fear, sour and sharp. The living room was dark, but I knew Valentina was there. I could feel her presence. "Valentina!" I called. "I'm here!" My daughter-in-law's voice trembled. I turned on the light. Valentina sat on the sofa with her legs tucked up. Her robe was torn at the shoulder, a bruise darkened on her face under her eye, her lip was split. "Dear God!" I whispered. "Mom, it's not what you think." Rodrigo began speaking quickly. We had a conversation, and..." "A conversation?" I looked at Valentina's beaten face, then at my son. "You call this a conversation?" "It's not that simple. You don't understand." "Then explain it to me." But before Rodrigo could say anything, light footsteps were heard on the stairs. Sophia was coming downstairs in pajamas, barefoot, with a tear-stained face. "Abuela!" she whispered and rushed to me. I hugged my granddaughter, feeling how her small body trembled. "Sophia, go to your room," Rodrigo said sharply. "No," I replied. "She'll stay here. We'll all stay here, and you'll explain to me what's happening in this house." I sat Sophia next to me on the sofa, away from Valentina. Not because I didn't trust my daughter-in-law, but because I didn't want my granddaughter to see her beaten face up close. Rodrigo remained standing in the middle of the room, clenching and unclenching his fists. "Sit down," I told him in a tone that brooked no objection, "and tell me." "Mom, there's nothing like that here." Rodrigo, your wife has a split lip and a bruise under her eye. Your daughter calls me at midnight and asks me to come but not tell you. This is nothing like that? Valentina raised her head. In her eyes, I saw what I had once seen in the mirror many years ago. The shame of a victim who for some reason considers herself guilty of being beaten. Rodrigo he's tired from work, she said quietly. The project is complicated, deadlines. We quarreled over nonsense and… What nonsense? I asked. Valentina looked at her husband as if asking permission to speak. That look told me more than any words. About money, she finally answered. We have some financial problems. Shut up, Rodrigo hissed. Don't you dare talk to her like that, I said sharply. Valentina, continue. Rodrigo took a loan, a big loan, didn't tell me, and now the bank demands repayment, but there's no money. Rodrigo thought he'd have time to earn it, but… I said, shut up, my son shouted. Sophia flinched and pressed closer to me. Rodrigo, sit down, I said coldly, and don't shout in front of the child. Valentina, what did he take the loan for? My daughter-in-law looked at me, then at her husband, then at me again. I could see how she struggled with herself, to speak or stay silent. For gambling, she finally whispered. The world turned upside down. My son, my smart, responsible, proper son, had been gambling. And not just gambling. He had lost so much that he had to take out a loan. How much? I asked. $12,000, Valentina said. And that's just the bank. And there are also other debts. What other debts? Rodrigo looked at his wife with such hatred that I involuntarily moved, shielding Sophia with my body. Private loans, Valentina said barely audibly. Rodrigo borrowed from not very good people. And how much do these not very good people want? $8,000, with interest. $20,000 total. The family budget of a psychologist and mid-level manager wouldn't handle such a sum even in 10 years. And the house? I asked. Mortgaged, Valentina admitted. Can Mom and Dad be left without a house? Sophia asked quietly. I stroked her head. Don't worry, sunshine. We'll figure something out. But I was worried myself. Very worried. How long has this been going on? I asked. Valentina looked at Rodrigo, but he remained silent, staring at the floor. A year and a half, she answered. At first he said it was entertainment, that he played a little bit, for relaxation after work. Then he started winning, small amounts, but still. And then he believed he could control the process, I finished. A classic story. I had seen such people when I worked in social services. Gambling addicts, people dependent on gambling, always went through the same stages. First light fascination, then first wins, then a sense of control, then losses, attempts to win back, new losses, loans, debts, collapse. Mom, I'm not a gambling addict, Rodrigo said, raising his head. I just got into a streak of bad luck. It's temporary. Rodrigo, you mortgaged the house and accumulated $20,000 in debt. This isn't a streak of bad luck. This is a disease. It's not a disease. He jumped up. I need time. I'll find the money. I'll pay everything back. Valentina and I will figure it all out. Figure it out? I looked at my daughter-in-law's beaten face. Is this how you figure it out? It was an isolated incident. I didn't mean to. I lost control. But it won't happen again. Dad, Sophia said quietly, you already said you wouldn't yell at Mom anymore. 3 weeks ago, and 2 weeks ago you said it too. Silence hung in the air. From these simple childish words, it became clear that violence in the house wasn't an isolated incident, but a system. Sophia, I addressed my granddaughter, how often does Dad yell at Mom? Almost every day, the girl said. And last Thursday, he threw a mug at Mom. It broke against the wall. Sophia! Rodrigo said sharply. And on Saturday, Dad pushed Mom and she fell. She says it wasn't on purpose, but I saw. Valentina cried silently. Tears just flowed down her face, and she didn't even try to wipe them away. Valentina, I said carefully, why don't you leave? Where would I go? She whispered. I have no money, no housing. My parents are dead. My sister lives in another city, and she has her own troubles. And the house is mortgaged. My work might not be enough to rent an apartment and support Sophia. What about friends? Colleagues? What friends? Valentina smiled bitterly. We're an exemplary family. Rodrigo forbids me from talking about our problems. Don't air dirty laundry. Family matters are only family matters. Everyone thinks everything is wonderful with us. I realized I had encountered a classic domestic violence situation. Victim isolation, financial dependence, shame, fear, inability to find support. And at the center of all this, a 10-year-old child who calls her grandmother at midnight because there's no one else to call. Sophia, I said, go upstairs, gather the most necessary things. Some clothes, textbooks, favorite toys, what will fit in one backpack. Mom, what are you doing? Rodrigo asked. What I should have done earlier. Valentina, you and Sophia are coming with me. No, Rodrigo said. No one is going anywhere. This is my family, my house. Your house is mortgaged. Your wife is beaten. Your daughter is afraid of you. What kind of family is this? Mom, don't interfere in other people's business. Rodrigo, I said, getting up from the sofa. You are my son. I gave birth to you, raised you, loved you. But if you raise your hand to your wife and daughter one more time, I will call the police. And don't think I won't do it. He looked at me with surprise. Probably didn't expect that Mom could put the interests of his daughter-in-law and granddaughter above the interests of her son. Now step away from the stairs. I need to help Valentina and Sophia pack. The next half hour was like a bad dream. I helped Valentina and Sophia gather the essentials while Rodrigo wandered around the house like a ghost, disappearing into his office, then appearing in the bedroom doorway, watching us silently. Valentina moved as if in a dream. She packed documents, medicines, underwear, several dresses into her bag. Sophia was more focused. She knew exactly what she needed. Her favorite book, the plush cat that had slept with her since she was 3, school supplies, a warm jacket. Abuela, are we going to your place for long? She asked. I don't know, sunshine. We'll see. What about Dad? I didn't know what to answer. What to tell a child about a father who had become strange and frightening. Dad needs time to solve his problems, I finally said. And meanwhile, you'll stay with us and Abuelo. When we were going downstairs with our things, Rodrigo stood in the hallway. His face was gray, his eyes were red. Valentina, he said, don't do anything stupid. Stay. We'll figure everything out. How will we figure it out, Rodrigo? She asked quietly. Will you sell the house and pay off the debts? And then what? Where will we live? I'll find a way. Give me time. How much time? A month? A year? What if you lose again? I won't lose. You said before that you wouldn't lose. Rodrigo lunged toward her, and I instinctively shielded Valentina with my body. Don't you dare, I told my son. He stopped, but his hands trembled with rage. Valentina, think about Sophia. You're depriving her of her father. No, Rodrigo. For the first time all evening, Valentina's voice sounded firm. You deprived her of her father. When you started scaring her, when you turned our home into a battlefield. We left the house at 1:30 at night. The February air was clean after the stuffy atmosphere of the house. Sophia sat in the front seat, Valentina in the back. When I started the car, Rodrigo's silhouette flashed in the office window on the second floor. Mom, Sophia said quietly, when we drove away from the house, will Dad get better? I don't know, dear. I really hope so. And if he doesn't get better? Then we'll figure out how to live without him. Will Abuelo be angry that we came at night? I smiled. My Esteban was the kindest person in the world. Abuelo never gets angry at you, you know that. What about Mom? He won't be angry at Mom either. Abuelo will understand. Valentina was silent the whole way. Only when we were already approaching our house, she said quietly, Esperanza, thank you. Don't mention it. We're family. I don't know how to repay you. Don't repay anything. Just get better. And think about the future. Esteban woke up from the sound of the closing door and found me in the kitchen with Sophia and my daughter-in-law with a beaten face. In 45 years of marriage, he had learned not to ask unnecessary questions. He simply made coffee, got milk from the refrigerator for Sophia, and said quietly, Welcome to our home. Valentina burst into tears. Sophia fell asleep on the living room sofa, covered with my old patchwork quilt. I settled Valentina in the guest room. I myself couldn't fall asleep until morning. I lay there thinking about what had happened. My son had become a domestic tyrant. My son, whom I had given birth to, fed, raised, sent to a good school, helped get into college. My son, who as a child cried if he stepped on a cat and brought home wounded birds. What went wrong? Where did I make a mistake? And then I remembered something I had tried not to think about for many years. I remembered my father. Dad was military, strict, fair. But when he came home drunk, and this happened quite often, he became a different person. He shouted at Mom, could push her, could hit her. And in the morning, he was the usual dad again. Brought Mom flowers, asked for forgiveness, promised it wouldn't happen again. I remembered how I hid in the closet when my parents fought, how Mom explained bruises to neighbors as an unfortunate fall, how I swore to myself that I would never marry a man like my father. And I didn't. Esteban was the complete opposite of my father, gentle, kind, never raising his voice. But it turns out I still passed something to my son. Some behavioral program, some pattern. Heredity, upbringing, or simply a bad example that a child saw in childhood? In the morning, I called work and warned that I was taking several days of vacation at my own expense. At the school where I worked as assistant principal, they were understanding. They knew I was a responsible person, and if I asked for time off, it was really needed. Valentina woke up late, around 11. The bruise under her eye had become even darker. Her lip was swollen, but something appeared in her eyes that hadn't been there at night. Hope. Esperanza, she said at breakfast, I need to go to work. Looking like this? I asked. I'll say I fell. Or hit a door. Valentina, Esteban said quietly, don't lie. People see the truth even through lies. But what should I do? If I don't go to work, they'll fire me, and work is the only thing I have. You have us, I said, and you have a daughter who loves you. And work. You can always find work. But Valentina went anyway. She returned in the evening pale and upset. What happened? I asked. Rodrigo came to my work, made a scene in front of everyone, shouted that I was separating him from his daughter, that I was turning Sophia against him. The director said she wouldn't tolerate family scandals during work hours. And then what? Then they gave me 2 weeks to resolve family problems. If I don't settle the situation during this time, I'll have to look for another job. Sophia listened to our conversation, huddled in the corner of the sofa. Mom, she said quietly, maybe we should just leave far, far away? To another city? Dad won't find us there, and you'll be able to work peacefully. Valentina looked at her daughter, then at me. Leave. But what would we live on? I don't even have money for tickets. What if Abuelo and Abuela lend us money? Sophia asked. Esteban and I exchanged glances. Our pension was small, but we had some savings. We could help. We'll think about it, I said. But first, we need to decide a more important question. Valentina, are you ready to divorce Rodrigo? She was silent for a long time. I don't know, she finally admitted. I'm scared. I've never been alone. I got married straight from my parents' house. I don't know if I can raise Sophia by myself, earn a living by myself, make decisions by myself. You can, I said. Women are stronger than they think. On the third day, Rodrigo came to our house. I saw his car through the window and went out to meet him on the porch, not letting him into the house. "Hi, Mom," he said. My son looked terrible, unshaven, in a wrinkled shirt, with red eyes. "Hello, Rodrigo. Can I come in? I want to talk to my family." "No, you can't." "Mom, that's my wife and daughter. Your wife is afraid of you, and your daughter sees you not as a father, but as a source of danger. Until that changes, I won't let you in the house." He tried to walk past me, but I blocked his way. "Rodrigo, stop! What do you want?" "I want my family to come home." "What about the debts? What about your gambling addiction?" "I don't gamble anymore." "At all. And I'll find the money." "How will you find it?" "There are options." "What options?" He looked away. "I'll take another loan. From a different bank." "Rodrigo, have you lost your mind? You can't even pay back what you've already taken." "I can. I'll find extra work. I'll work weekends." "What about your family? When will you see your wife and daughter?" "Later. When I pay off the debts." I understood that he was living in a world of illusions. He thought he could solve a problem created by loans with new loans, that he could fix family relationships by distancing himself even more from his family. "Rodrigo, go home. When you're ready to admit that you're sick and start getting treatment, we'll talk." "Mom, I'm not sick." "You are sick, son. And until you admit it, you're dangerous to your loved ones." He stood there a little longer, then got in his car and left. That same evening, an unfamiliar woman called me. "Esperanza? This is Dolores, your son's neighbor." "I'm listening. I'm calling because I'm worried. Rodrigo sold his car to some people yesterday. Today, all day, some men have been coming to the house. Rough, unpleasant. They demand that he come out. He doesn't come out, but they don't leave." My heart skipped. "How many of them?" "3. They stand by the gate, smoke, talk in raised voices. The neighbors are already starting to complain." "Thank you for warning me." I hung up the phone and thought. So those not very good people who had lent Rodrigo money had begun active collection efforts. And if they had come to the house, it meant the situation was critical. Valentina had heard my conversation and turned pale. "Debt collectors?" she asked. "It looks like it." "Valentina, do you think they know about you and Sophia?" "I don't know. Possibly. When Rodrigo borrowed money, he might have named me as a guarantor or co-borrower." "Then we need to be careful. They might try to find you." I couldn't sleep that night. I thought about my son, who was sitting in a mortgaged house, surrounded by creditors. I thought about my daughter-in-law, who was afraid to return to her husband, but also afraid to live without him. I thought about Sophia, who at 10 years old already knew more about life than children should. And in the morning, everything resolved itself. On the morning of the 4th day, Rodrigo called. His voice was strange, too calm. "Mom, can I come over? I need to tell Valentina and Sophia something." "What happened?" "Can I just come over? I won't touch anyone. I won't shout. I just need to say a few words." Something in his tone made me agree. Rodrigo arrived half an hour later. He looked even worse than yesterday, like a person who hadn't slept for several nights in a row. But he held himself strangely straight, and his gaze was somehow absent. Valentina and Sophia sat in the living room. Esteban went to the shed, wisely deciding not to interfere in the family conversation. "Valentina," Rodrigo said, "I came to say that I won't bother you anymore." "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means you're right. I'm sick. I've done stupid things that I can't get rid of, and it would be better if you forgot about me." "Dad," Sophia said quietly, "what do you mean?" Rodrigo looked at his daughter, and for a second his face trembled. "Sophia, Dad has to go very far away. For a long time, maybe forever." "Where?" "It doesn't matter where. What matters is that you'll live with Mom and Abuela, and no one will scare you anymore." I sensed something was wrong. "Rodrigo, what's happening?" "What's happening, Mom?" is that those people I owe money to aren't very patient. They gave me until tomorrow, and I have no money. And what are you going to do? I'm going to disappear. Before they hurt you, Valentina threw up her hands. Rodrigo, that's not the solution. You can't just run away. I can, and I must. Valentina, the house documents are in the safe in the office. The code is 1508, Sophia's birthday. Insurance will? Everything's there. The house is mortgaged, but if you sell it, you can partially pay off the bank debt. Rodrigo. I tried to say something, but he interrupted. Mom, I filed a police report against those people who are harassing me. I sued the bank. Maybe I can get an installment plan. But most importantly, I signed up with a psychotherapist, a specialist in gambling addiction. You signed up? I was surprised. Yes, I realized you were right, that I'm sick, and that until I get better, I'll be dangerous to my family. But why leave? Get treatment here. Mom, you don't understand. These people don't joke around. They've already hinted that they might become interested in my family. I can't put my wife and daughter in danger. Sophia started crying. Dad, if you get better, will you come back? Rodrigo approached his daughter, knelt down and hugged her. I'll definitely come back, sunshine. But only when I become a normal dad again, so you won't be afraid of me, but will love me. I love you now too, Sophia whispered, and I love you. Very much. That's why I'm leaving. He kissed his daughter on the top of her head, stood up and looked at Valentina. Valentina, forgive me. For everything. You're a good wife and mother. You deserve a much better husband. Rodrigo, don't talk like that. I must. Because it's the truth. He approached me. Mom, thank you for saving my family from me. Rodrigo, don't say anything. I understand everything, and I'll try to become better, for you. He turned and walked toward the exit. Rodrigo, I called out to him. What? Where will you go? To a rehabilitation center in another city. They have a program for people with gambling addiction. A long program, minimum 6 months. And money for treatment? I sold the car? And I'll sell some other things. He left, and I never saw him again. 3 months passed. Valentina and Sophia stayed living with us. At first, it was supposed to be temporary, but gradually it became permanent. Our house was large, there was room for everyone, and most importantly, we were happy together. Valentina got a new job as a child psychologist at a family social services center. The pay wasn't very good, but she liked the work, and the experience gained in her own family helped her better understand clients. Sophia started school near our house. New classmates, new teachers, new friends. Gradually, she stopped flinching when someone raised their voice, stopped being afraid of men, became an ordinary child again. Short messages came from Rodrigo once a week. Everything's fine. Getting treatment. I miss you. I love you. No other details. The house he had mortgaged had to be sold, but the proceeds were only enough to pay off the bank loan. The debt to private individuals remained hanging like a dead weight. What if they find us? Valentina asked once. They won't find us, Esteban replied. Such people are only interested in money. If the debtor disappeared, they'll switch to others. What if Rodrigo comes back? If he comes back healthy, we'll solve problems together. If he comes back the same as he was, we won't let him in the house. Valentina gradually came back to life. The bruises faded, fear disappeared from her eyes. She made friends at work. And most importantly, she learned to make independent decisions. Esperanza, she said one evening, I want to file for divorce. Are you sure? Yes. Even if Rodrigo gets better, I can't go back to him. There was too much, and Sophia needs peace. I understand. What about alimony? I don't know if I'll be able to get it. But we'll manage without it. The divorce was processed in absentia. Rodrigo didn't object. He sent consent by mail from the city where he was receiving treatment. And a month later, Valentina had a suitor. Daniel worked at the same social service as Valentina, but in a different department. A rehabilitation psychologist, he helped people with various addictions. Divorced, no children, 40 years old. At first, they were just friends, drinking coffee during lunch breaks, discussing work issues. Then, friendship turned into something more. Esperanza, Valentina said once, Daniel wants to meet you and Esteban. And what do you think about that? I think it's time. I like this man, and Sophia likes him too. Sophia has seen him? Yes. Daniel came to our workplace when I was picking her up from school. They talked about books. It turned out they have similar tastes. Daniel came to visit on Sunday. He brought flowers for me, good wine for Esteban, and a new book for Sophia. The man turned out to be calm, intelligent, with a good sense of humor. At dinner, he talked about his work, how he helps people cope with alcohol, drug, and gambling addiction. The hardest thing, he said, is to make a person admit they're sick. As long as they consider themselves healthy, no treatment will help. Do many people recover? Sophia asked. Not very many, Daniel answered honestly. Maybe about 30%. But those who do recover become completely different people, better than they were before the illness. Can gambling addiction be treated? It can be treated, but it's long and difficult, and relapses happen often. After dinner, Daniel stayed to help clean up. In the kitchen, he said quietly to me, Esperanza, I know Valentina's story. I know what she went through. And I want you to know, I will never raise my hand to her. I will never shout, and I'll treat Sophia like my own daughter. How can you be so sure? I asked. Because I grew up in a family where my father beat my mother. I know how scary that is, and I swore to myself that I would never become like that. He left late in the evening. Sophia couldn't fall asleep for a long time. She kept discussing the new book that Daniel had given her with her mother. Mom, she said before bed, does Uncle Daniel want to become my new dad? Would you want to have a new dad? Valentina asked carefully. I don't know. What would happen to my real dad then? Your real dad will remain your dad. But he's sick, and when he'll get better is unknown. And Uncle Daniel is healthy and kind. Can I have two dads? A real one and a new one? You can, sunshine. If you want to. 2 months later, Valentina and Daniel got married. The wedding was small, only the closest family. Sophia was her mother's witness and was very proud of it. They bought an apartment near us and moved there. Sophia came to us every day after school, did homework, had dinner, told us news. Abuela, she said once, do you know Uncle Daniel is very funny. He can do magic tricks and tell stories he makes up himself. And what kind of stories does he tell? About a princess who saved herself. Without any princes. She was very smart and brave. I smiled. Daniel definitely knew what kind of stories needed to be told to a girl who had seen too much. Rodrigo appeared 6 months after Valentina's wedding. He called my mobile when I was at work. Mom, it's me. Rodrigo. Where are you? Home. I mean, in our city. Mom, I finished the rehabilitation program. Can I come over? My heart started pounding. Rodrigo, do you know that Valentina got remarried? A pause. I know, I saw it on social media. And what do you think about that? I think she did the right thing. She needed a reliable man beside her, and I wasn't one. And now you are? I hope so. Mom, can I come over and tell you how things are? And see Sophia? Come over, but I'm warning you, if you say one word against Daniel or try to turn Sophia against her stepfather, I won't receive you again. I won't, Mom, I promise. Rodrigo came in the evening. He looked completely different. He had lost weight, but not in an exhausted way, but athletically. His eyes were clear, his movements calm. Dressed modestly but neatly. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Esteban nodded reservedly. My husband didn't forgive easily. How are things? I asked. Fine. I work at a rehabilitation center, helping other people with gambling addiction. The salary is small, but I don't need more. And where do you live? I rent a room, not far from work. And do you have the urge to gamble? I do. Probably always will. But I've learned to cope with it. I attend a support group. And most importantly, I now understand what was happening to me then. And what was happening? I was trying to run away from problems, from responsibility, from fear that I was a bad husband and father. Gambling was a way not to think about reality. And then reality became even scarier, and I needed even more gambling. A vicious circle. I looked at my son carefully. He spoke sincerely, without trying to justify himself or blame circumstances. And now you're not afraid of responsibility? I'm afraid. But I don't run from it. Mom, I know I caused you all a lot of pain. I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness, but I want you to know, I've changed. At that moment, Sophia entered the house. She saw her father and froze at the threshold. Dad? Hi, Sophia. They looked at each other, an 11-year-old girl and her father, who had become a stranger to her. Are you here for long? Sophia asked. I don't know, sunshine. It depends on many things. Will you shout at Mom again? No, I never will again. And gamble? I won't do that either. Do you promise? I promise. But I understand that my promises mean nothing to you now. I've already broken them. Sophia came closer. Dad, Uncle Daniel says that people can change if they really want to. Did you really want to? Yes, Sophia. Very much. Does Mom know you came? No, but I'd like to talk to her, and to Uncle Daniel too. Why? To ask for forgiveness, and to say that I won't interfere with your new family. Several years passed, and Sophia turned 12. We celebrated her birthday at our house, with the big family. Valentina with Daniel, Esteban and I, Sophia, and Rodrigo. Yes, my son was also at the celebration. Not as a family member, but as a guest. As a father who has the right to see his daughter, but doesn't have the right to interfere in her life. Much had changed over the past year. Rodrigo found a good job in social services. His experience fighting addiction turned out to be in demand. He rented an apartment closer to us to be able to see his daughter more often. Valentina and Daniel were expecting a child. Sophia was thrilled that she would have a little brother or sister. Abuela, she whispered in my ear during the celebration. Do you know, I'm not scared now, even when Dad and Uncle Daniel are in the same room. Why aren't you scared? Because they don't fight. They're even friends a little bit. And Uncle Daniel said that I have a very good dad. He was just sick, but now he's gotten better. I looked at Rodrigo. He sat at the table, telling Daniel something about his work. Two men who loved the same woman and the same child, but managed to find a way to coexist peacefully. And who do you love more, Dad or Uncle Daniel? I asked my granddaughter. Can you love differently? She answered thoughtfully. I love Dad because he's my dad. And I love Uncle Daniel because he's good and not scary. Of course you can. Then I love them differently. And I love you and Abuelo too, and Mom, and my future little brother. I ended up with a very big family. Yes, she did. Not ordinary, not what was originally planned, but big, close-knit, loving, and that midnight call a year ago. Now I understand that it wasn't a cry for help. It was a call that saved all of us, because it forced us to act, not wait for everything to work out by itself. Sometimes you need to destroy an old family to build a new one. Sometimes you need to go through pain to find happiness. And sometimes the scariest calls in life turn out to be the most important ones. Sophia blew out the candles on the cake and made a wish. What did you wish for? Daniel asked. It's a secret, she laughed. But if I tell Abuela in her ear, will the wish come true? Try it, I said. She ran up to me and whispered, I wished that all my loved ones would be healthy and happy, and that no one would hurt anyone, and that we would always be together. That's a good wish, I said, hugging her. It will definitely come true. And I believed it, because all of us, each in our own way, had earned a second chance at happiness.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.